So today we're going through this small slideshow I created, talking about CPU layouts or the CPU grid layouts, and are there any performance gains on which type of CPU layout you use. So let's go through this small slide. So we've got three CPU layouts here. We've got the AMD PGA socket, and you'll notice that on the Intel LGA socket, we have the pins on the motherboard, whereas on the AMD PGA socket, we do not have the pins on the motherboard. Now, this is because this is just kind of like the design, and I think Intel just knows that the actual motherboard is cheaper to replace than the actual CPU, which is pretty cool. So pretty sure that's another reason. Obviously, there are other reasons why they're not the same like kind of socket, but let's not go through that because it's going to take some time to explain what the sockets are and what the difference is between the sockets. So we've got the AMD PGA socket, we've got the Intel LGA socket, and we've got the BGA socket. Well, it's not really a socket; it's more of a CPU. So, like I was explaining earlier, the pins are on the CPU, and there are no pins on the motherboard. The Intel LGA socket, we have the pins on the actual motherboard, and the pins aren't on the CPU. They've just got like these kind of like little CPU kind of like dots. I'll show you that in this video.
You can see we've got my Intel Core i5, the 3rd gen CPU. We've got the CPU, kind of like these little dots on the CPU, whereas on the Intel whereas on the Intel motherboard we have the pins on the motherboard, and there are no pins on the actual CPU. And we want to know what the CPU of the front of the CPU looks like. So what the front of the CPU looks like. It's nothing special. It's kind of similar to the AMD CPUs. We've got the name of the CPU, and yeah, the IHS, and the die is actually inside. You can't see it. Guys, you can see other videos of it. But yeah, that's what a CPU would look like.
Then we've got the BGA CPU, and this is a bit different from the other CPUs. Now, so PGA stands for the pin grid array. The LGA socket, well, the LGA CPU stands for land grid array, and then we've got the BGA CPU, which stands for ball grid array. And notice you have these kind of like little beads or balls on the CPU. Then we've got the actual die of the CPU, and yeah. So you tend to find these BGA CPUs on a laptop or a mobile device like a tablet. And you may ask why. Well, I don't think you're going to be shaking your computer a lot, and the CPUs are kind of like hard to take out. The BGA CPUs are hard to take out, which is why. Let me rephrase that again. The BGA CPUs are really hard to take off, which is why they're mainly put in mobile devices. So if you're ever like moving around, the CPU won't fall out, and instead it'll be soldered on really firmly. Whereas if you're using a computer, you'll have like kind of the CPU on the pins, and it's not soldered. So now you may ask why the CPU pins are just, why do they look yellow for? The reason why they look yellow is because they're made of gold. And why gold? Why not diamonds? Why not a different type of thermal conductor or an insulator? Well, you see, gold is a pretty good thermal conductor for electricity to go through. Obviously, diamond is the world's best thermal conductor for now. So it's going to be pretty expensive if you want that on your motherboard. But gold is probably the cheapest option right now. Hopefully, we have cheaper diamonds on motherboards, I guess. That'd be pretty cool. But anyways, let's go on to the next slide. So what does the CPU actually look like now that we've looked at the CPU pins? So this is one of Intel's Core i9 CPUs. This is the 12th gen, which is overclockable because it's got the K. We've got the AMD Ryzen chip, which is the CPU on the actual. So we've got the pins on the actual CPU, whereas on the Intel CPU, like I showed earlier in that video, they've got like little dots on the CPU, and the actual pins are on the motherboard. Then we've got the ball grid array CPU. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the CPU. It could be a GPU, I'm not sure, but this is what the CPU would look like on a laptop or a mobile device. So you see we've got a laptop motherboard here, and this is actual motherboard, just a little close-up. So you'll notice we've got the CPU die. There's the CPU die. Then we've got that shows just the CPU itself, and yep, there's the CPU itself. So for some bizarre reason, BGA CPUs online, I saw some BGA CPU costing for £45,000. I'm not sure why, but it's probably because of the materials it's made out of, really rare. So yeah, this is what the BGA CPU looks like. It's been soldered. It's really hard to replace. There are a couple of videos on YouTube of people just unsoldering the actual CPU off like a tablet. And let's move on to the next slide. We're going to be talking about tablets. So, rather BGA CPUs commonly found. Now, you usually find these in iPads or just tablets. And you do find these are like really cheap tablets off Amazon or AliExpress, which is really weird for some reason. They call it an intelligent learning machine or something like that. Something like that. But yeah, you usually tend to find these BGA CPUs on tablets, just basically mobile devices. Also Kindle tablets, and just stuff like that. Basically, mobile devices that you can transport. So, are there any performance gains with the type of socket you're using? Now, there aren't many differences. Let's take a read of this. So, there aren't many differences with the CPU's performance regarding CPU pins. Pins are made of gold, which is a good thermal conductor, like I explained before. The gold does not make a difference to performance either. It really doesn't matter what type of CPU socket you're using, and that is true. It doesn't matter what CPU socket you're using. It actually depends on the CPU you're using, not the CPU socket. The main part of where you get the performance is the CPU die, and that's where the main processing occurs. So you really want to focus on what type of CPU you're using. So if you're using a Core i3, the CPU will be a bit slow, but I don't really recommend using a Core i3. If you're using a Core i5, which is mainly for like gaming or maybe some office use, you can use a Core i5, and the Core i5 has got lot of more performance gains. Besides the Core i3 CPU, we've got the Core i7, which is also used for gaming and like a lot of CAD work, just basically 3D modeling. You tend to use a Core i7, and if you're using a Core i9, which is probably the best CPU out there right now, you'd be usually using the Core i9 for like gaming purposes. I'm planning on getting a Core i9 maybe in the future, so I can record better gameplay. So the main question is, are there any performance gains with the type of socket? No, there are not. No performance gains whatsoever. Obviously, if you're the Intel CPU, let's go back to the previous slide. You'll see there are like maybe some bits of tiny performance gains. I mean, the bigger the CPU, the bigger the actual like tray is gonna be. So I guess it's gonna need more power and more like just performance for the motherboard. So the tray has to expand, whereas you see in the Core i9 that the casual Intel CPU, like I showed in the video, it's kind of like just a square, whereas the Core i9, the Core i9 12th gen CPU, the size has expanded, and so has the CPU tray. And if the CPU tray is expanded, then obviously the pins, we've got more pins on the CPU. So I guess there are just small performance gains, but that really depends on what kind of CPU you're using and the size. So yeah, that concludes everything, this slide. So if you want, you can take a read of it, but otherwise, yeah. So I'll see you guys in my next video. I'm going to be making more videos, just some basic videos on computers and stuff like that. And yeah, I am still going to be continuing the HTML video, but I do want to make some other tutorials as well, not just HTML. So I might take a break from it, or I might continue uploading and then take a break. So yeah. So thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe, because we're really close to 200 subscribers, and I'm pretty surprised that we're getting to 200 subscribers. That'll be really nice. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Probably schedule that instead of doing it now. So I can do it now, and I'll probably schedule it. But otherwise, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.